Welcome back to Kris Greenhill's Garage. Thank you for watching. It is the day after Labor Day, the day after Kris and I stabbed my 302 and T5 transmission into my 1988 Ford Mustang GT, known as Project White Trash. We were tired, so we stopped once we got the engine mounts set in their cradles, and that's where we called it yesterday. Now it's time to start getting everything buttoned up and finish the rest of the install. Kris isn't here. He's back in school today. I have a weekday off, so it'll just be me for now. Kris may be in and out of the video a few times. Who knows? Not quite sure. And I have no idea when you'll see this video. Like I said, it's the day after Labor Day. You might see this in a week, a month, a year, who knows. I'm not sure what's going to get done in this video, how long it's going to take, when I'm going to put it out. I'm going to start with the exhaust system, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do after that, if anything, for now. This is mostly about getting my exhaust system installed, but before I can do that, I really need to get this transmission cross member in and get the transmission mounted so I can get my jack back. Kind of in a dilemma here. My jack is holding up the transmission, but I need my jack to lift up the car so I can crawl under there and do stuff to the transmission. But I don't want to let the transmission and just hang and strain the motor mounts. I did not think this through very well. The motor mounts seem to be handling their own for now, so I guess it'll be all right. So I absolutely do not have the proper cross member bolts to affix this thing. Let's see if I can fix that. Like magic. All thread fixes all things. Well, my solid transmission mount, one of the bolts is already bent. Who would have guessed that would have been from something as simple as, dropping the weight of an engine and transmission on it? Wow, they just don't make them like they used to. But it looks like Lynn R. in the comments may have been right, that with the SN95, even with those bent inwards towards the transmission, they don't seem to want to line up when I line up the engine mount, or the transmission mount. Oh, this will be fun. That was not working underneath the car. I could not get those bolts to go in. They were both hitting right here, or right here. I'm not sure which way I had it. Same thing. I've gotten tired of asking nicely. Oh, mighty God, the grinder wheel of death, smite mine enemy for upsetting me. God was not in a great mood today, and he did not care about my problems, and it did not make very clean, smooth, pretty cuts. I had to kind of finish this off with the Dremel a little bit. Oh well, let's see if it fits. What an absolute nightmare. I had to get back in here with Guad again just to try to clearance this transmission mount, or the transmission cross member, so my transmission mount will fit. And now I'm going to have to do a bunch of custom washers and try to get this thing to grip in here, but this was just insane. I don't know what's going on here. It is getting tiresome recording under the car, but that's kind of what I suspected. You can see how far off my shifter and transmission are out of alignment underneath the car, which is one reason I'm having so many issues with the cross member. It's not even really close. I don't know if it's the motor mounts or what, but the transmission's cocked an inch, maybe 2 inches towards the driver's side, and I can't get it to move. Oh my God, I thought somehow I got the wrong sized all thread for these transmission cross member tubes. That's the problem. You can see how bent this thing is. That's why I can't get these things in. It's driving me crazy. Alright, it's really hard to film under the car, especially alone. The situation is the transmission is way over this side. The transmission cross member is like 2 inches pushed off to this side because the transmission is. I have tried everything. I've tried prying on it, and the motor mounts are just unforgiving. I've tried lining it up with the transmission crossmember loose on both ends. I've tried just doing anything possible. I've tried to flip the transmission crossmember around, but it's beyond that. I mean, the transmission's that cockeyed. The drive shaft is never going to line up perfectly. It is really extreme and kind of at a standstill. I've been down here for an hour longer than I anticipated, and I cannot get this thing to move. So I'm going to try to lift the engine up a little and see if that'll help any. Alright, got the front of the engine up. Definitely not a lot of movement, but maybe I can move it now. It is over 2 hours later, and I have finally gotten this thing in. Over 2 hours of lifting the engine, lifting the jack, lowering the engine, twisting, turning, doing everything humanly possible, grinding the absolute crap out of my transmission crossmember, and then having to try to get washers to fill the gap. Over 2 hours trying to line up that side of the crossmember, getting one side and the other side being 2 inches off, having to lift the engine, having to jack up and then pry the transmission to the side and lower the engine. I am absolutely exhausted. I hate to admit it, but I really needed the boy here today. I believe I took more than 100 trips underneath the car and back out again to get this done. It was insane. I've never seen anything like this. If you had asked me what's the absolute maximum amount of time it'll take to do a transmission crossmember, I said on a really good day 15 minutes. On a really bad day maybe 30 minutes, but there's really nothing that can go wrong. And then just for fun, in one of my 100 trips from underneath the car back out, I must have kicked my hardware somewhere because I lost the nuts, the washers, and the lock washers. So I have to buy new versions of those, because somehow in my tens of thousands of washers and nuts and everything, I don't have the exact size I need. I honest to God thought by this point in the day I would have my new exhaust components measured up, bolted up to the headers, have the headers installed. I haven't even touched the headers. Have the headers installed, have my new flanges bolted up, have everything measured, and I would have started welding on these things. So late in the day now, I'm not even going to go to the store to get the other components until I get my daughter from school, because there's no point. I'm hours behind schedule. And just for fun, it's really looking like when I bolt my headers up to the heads, they are going to hit the steering rack and my new clutch fork down there, because it's an SN95 and these are Fox body headers. And when I lined these up with the heads earlier, it really looks like they're not going to want to fit under here. Man, this sucks. Well, this header fit better than I expected. I actually got some clearance in the steering rack and the clutch. Oh no. Where'd it go? Uh-oh. May not have any clearance on the clutch fork. Ooh, that is tight. Let's see. Yeah, it is touching. I might have to trim that a little bit because it is rubbing. Dang it. Even more problems. Definitely don't think I'm getting exhaust through here easily. Crap. And just because I went ahead and lodged my passenger side header underneath my starter and engine, pinned it to the frame after I tightened my motor mounts. Good times. So now I gotta take those off and lift the engine back up. I'm not good at this. I've got it in. Plenty of room, plenty of space on this side. The motor mount is back in. I just forgot lock washers, so I'm just leaving it half installed, but it's gonna fit. It fits better than the other side at least. I lost a header bolt down here and it has disappeared into the ether. I don't believe it hit the ground, and I can't find it on the ground. I can't find it on the frame. I can't find it on the header. I can't find it on the steering rack. So I'm short a header bolt now. Good times. I'm back from the parts store. All the header bolts are now tightened down with lock washers. I have all my header bolts again because I went and bought a new set. I was missing one, and obviously no one can be missing just one header bolt. So you have to buy 16 of them. Thanks a lot, header bolt companies. Anyway, got the headers on. Let's see what they look like underneath. Oof. That's gonna be close. Jeez. My nice fresh paint job on these things got absolutely butchered. Alright, let's move on to the next step. Here is my exhaust setup. I just bought this yesterday. Bought it for 80 bucks online. It's an X-pipe, and it's been cut off at the headers. So I got these adapters. Slide in here. I'm going to weld. And then I got these flange collectors to mount onto my headers. And that's what we're going to do with this thing. I don't know what the tin foil's for. It comes off. I'm guessing that's to cover up some pretty nasty welds. Probably not as nasty as my welds, but it's not going on right now anyway. I'll take this thing out, clean it up. I'll probably paint it high temp black like the headers used to be before I butchered them. And before I start doing any welding on it, I'll clean it up. Here's the new header flange collector, just kind of mocked up and sitting on here, but really looks like there's a problem. You look at that just perfectly head on. I don't know if that's going to clear, which is crazy because these headers and this cross member went together for years with no issue. And now I got those motor mounts and this transmission mount, and everything's all cockeyed and out of place. Oh, man. I guess the easiest way to find out is just to bring the flange adapter down here, and when I tighten that up, that is going to hit. So I may have to trim this just a little. The benefit of the solid motor mounts and transmission mount, this thing is not going to move at all once these are tightened down, but if you pull on the top bolt tight, definitely hitting, it's definitely going to leak. So I definitely have to trim it. That's frustrating. Well, that is all I've got for today. That's all I've got time for. It took so long to do these projects. An hour and a half project took like 6 hours. So no time for welding or mocking up the X-pipe or anything today. So that's it. Catch you in a few days. It is day 2. I've only got about an hour of free time today. I have a bunch of stuff to do. So all I'm going to do today is I'm going to clean up, strip the surface, get bare metal on all these spots where I'm going to have to weld around it. I'm just going to get the grinder, just clean everything up. I'm going to clean off all this old exhaust tape, this high temp tape, clean it all up, get this thing ready to be welded and then ready for paint. And that's all that's happening today. All right, I've spent quite a bit of time trying to clean this stuff up. I got almost all that high temp tape off, and yes, it was used to cover up some pinholes and some booger welds and stuff. I'm just gonna have to go over all that again. When you look down the pipe, you can see several little pinholes where it's leaking all through here. I'm not saying I could do any better, but I am going to try to fix it. I pressure washed this thing to no avail. It is so many layers of old corroded metal covered up with oil and grease, then sprayed over with high temp paint, and then more oil and grease with more high temp paint as I'm pressure washing it. certain layers of certain things came off certain spots, and it's just a nightmare. I'm not even going to worry about trying to high temp paint it at all. This will just be a band-aid for a while. Originally, my plan was to get 3-inch header collector mufflers from Summit Racing and just bolt those directly onto my 3-bolt flange headers, and that was going to be my entire exhaust system for a while. But I wanted an actual exhaust that I could put together and add on to later, and maybe add tailpipes to. So I bought this thing dirt cheap online. It had chambered mufflers and an X-pipe, and for 80 bucks, it's a pretty good deal. Unfortunately, it's a combination of true 2.5 mufflers, true 2.5 flow tubes, narrowed down to some 2 1/4 collector, or some joints, 2 1/4 joints. And unfortunately, I'm going to put 2 1/4 adapters in the tips of these just to get it to work, which means that I will effectively have a 2 1/4 exhaust on my engine, because no matter what you do, the smallest, narrowest flow point, the choke point of your exhaust, is how much air it's going to flow. I think I'm going to spend the extra 15 bucks and put some turn downs on these just to kind of direct the exhaust sound away from me a little bit. The whole reason I got this instead of those collector mufflers were about right here where they were going to dump, and they were going to dump directly under our seats, and that was going to drive me insane. So this will serve as a temporary band-aid. I've got true 3-inch collector muffler or headers. I've got true 3-inch collectors on my headers. So someday next year or something, I'll order a true 3-inch X-pipe and 3-inch mufflers and 3-inch tailpipes, but this is just going to go on for now. I don't know what mufflers these are. I don't know if these are 2-chamber or 3-chamber. I think they're 3-chamber, because I think I was able to see further into my 2-chamber muffler. So there's a chamber right here inside of this. So I think they're 3-chamber mufflers, but not 100% sure. And it doesn't really matter. They'll do for a while. I went ahead and ground down and stripped these pieces where I'm going to have to weld it. I don't know how they're going to be adjusted exactly, so just went ahead and stripped the whole thing all the way around on both sides. As you can see, these are 2 1/4 adapters to fit in here. I'm going to have to go through and clean up a couple of holes here. I'm going to attempt to use flux core, because that's going to be my best bet by far. I think this thin gauged pipe, I'm just going to blow through and disintegrate if I try to use the arc welder on it. But that's a tomorrow problem. Look who finally decided to join us. Been telling him he was wasting too much time in school. Education's for the losers. I don't have much of an education. I turned out fine, didn't I?
No.
Ugh, what a terrible son. We've already got the car in the air. Next thing we're going to do is make sure the drive shaft fits, since our transmission sits back like an inch further than before. Then we're going to try to mock up this exhaust and get it tack welded in place, and then hopefully permanently mount it. Here we are under the car, and we're kind of test fitting our drive shaft. Kris Jr. has gotten the 4 bolts back in, just kind of hand tight for a mock-up. Yeesh, this is what I was afraid of, this drive shaft. This drive shaft is probably an inch too long. That's because our bell housing and our whole setup is an inch too long. So I'm not sure if we're going to have to find an SN95 drive shaft or what, but there is no clearance there. But for now, it's just mocked up for the purpose of getting our exhaust in. We went and got our factory exhaust brackets off with the factory hangers, and I did not realize that they hung in 2 different locations at 2 different heights, and each hung completely differently. But I think we've got figured out which one is passenger, which one's driver, and we're going to try to hang these on our exhaust and go mock it up. All right, we have these things on here the way we think they may go. And we're going to crawl into the car and bolt them up and hope this works. We've just run into a major problem. We have the exhaust hung in the rear, the back of the mufflers, and we're like 9 to 10 inches short from reaching the headers. Here we are with our exhaust extensions and how far we are away from the headers. So we've got to go buy some more intermediate tube to extend these things out quite a bit. With our extensions on, it looks like we need to fill a 6-inch gap on this side and a 9-inch gap on this side. One problem I'm already noticing is these pipes don't exactly aim towards the headers. They both aim at an angle towards the middle of the car. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. I may have to put the jack in these things and spread these pipes a little bit. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. Guess I'm going to cut the extra pipe, try to fill the gap and see how it looks. Got this 18-inch resonator pipe at our local parts store. We'll start by cutting it in half and then slowly take pieces off of it to get it to fit where we need it. It is extremely cramped in here and hard to get any perspective, but I think I'm ready. I've been measuring and cutting and recutting, and I think I have this fit on both sides well enough where I can tack this into place, then unbolt it, pull it out, and final weld it, hopefully. I'm sure nothing could go wrong here. All right, here's the exhaust, the way it's going to hang, and it's ready to be tacked into place. Oh, good God, I'm missing completely. Right there. All right, so we got everything dirty tack welded up, pretty nasty. Should point out once again, I'm not a welder. I'm an idiot with a welder. So I'm gonna have Junior hit all this with the grinder wheel or the wire wheel, and I'm gonna re-weld some of the old welds. I'm gonna try to hopefully put this all together and get it back under the car. Due to the way these pipes are bent, I'm going to have to fill some space around some of these. The Junior came through with the wire wheel and hit these. Let's see if I can teach him how to weld just a little bit. Oh my God, that almost looks like a real weld. These not so much, but I am improving as I go. That's almost like I know how to weld. What did you say a minute ago, boy? Say it again.
What would I say?
I dislike you a whole lot.
I don't know what I said.
You said I was improving.
Oh.
You're a terrible person. Alright, here we are. Whole thing's welded up all the way around. Once again, I must say I'm not a welder. I'm an idiot with a welder. Here are my welds. But now I can honestly say I'm a master welder compared to the people who welded this the first time. I have no idea how many hours it would take to grind this all down and re-weld it, and I'm not willing to put the time in. We are done. Mine, not mine. These are mine. Putting our turn downs on the back of the mufflers here to kind of turn some of that sound away from us. I'm going to tack them in place. Junior here is going to attempt to weld them. His first welding. There you go. Keep going. There you go. Keep going. Don't stop. Don't get shoved. It's okay. There you go. A little slower, a little slower, a little slower. Slower, slower, slower. Looking good. Looking pretty good. All right, that's looking pretty good. Way too fast. You're going way too fast down. Hold, 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 move. Couple of millimeters. Hold, move. Hold, move. Hold, move. Just a little bit. About like that, buddy. About that speed. Let's see. Oh, you got off track a little bit, but the bead is actually looking better. Go ahead. Is it not working? Hold on. Is it not grounded? Hold, hold, scooch just a little. Hold, hold, scooch just a little. Scooch a little. I accidentally turned off the camera, I think. That's actually a really good bead. It's just slightly on top of the turn down, but that is much better. Good. Hold, 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 move, hold, move, hold, move a little, move a little more. All right, let's look at it. Getting better. Let's see. Yeah, look, I can actually lift the muffler up by that. So that connected. All right, we'll work on it. It's a work in progress. All right, Kris Jr. Took a few swipes at this, welded a few inches of this for his first welding lesson, but he had to go, so I just finished this off. Yeah, they're nasty booger welds, but whatever. The turn downs are on the car, or on the exhaust at least. All right, I have the exhaust in, it's attached, it's hung, and I can tell you I've already screwed up. I made these turn downs way too long. I should have cut them down about here, and I didn't. And they are touching the rear differential with the differential at right height. That means when the axle lowers and extends and the suspension extends, they are going to hit. Oh man, nothing to be done about that today. Sounds like a future Kris problem. Now the exhaust is in, and I'll deal with that when the car is running or something. I forgot about this. I forgot that with my headers in place, my clutch fork completely rides on them now, so I got to fix that. All right, I got in there and clearanced it about as much as I can. I think I have about 1 millimeter of clearance. This is moving freely. It is not rubbing off the paint that I can see. I sprayed some fresh paint on it, so hopefully that's going to work. All right, that's it. I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm going to call it for the day and probably for the weekend and just be done with it for now. Here soon I'll have to get back under there and cut those muffler dumps or bend them or do something with them, but I'm just too tired today. I'm just going to leave the car up on jack stands, and then coming up here real soon I'm going to start on the fuel system and the cooling system in the ignition system. And since I'll need to be crawling under the car left and right all the time, I'm just going to leave it up in the air for now. Thanks for watching. Catch you soon.